Hello friends, and welcome back to my library. Today we're in the library because it has been a couple of rainy days here, much needed rain. Today's a day of sunshine in and out, but this afternoon we're supposed to get some storms again. But we're in here today because I have a couple of books I have been very excited to share with you. They are newer finds for me, and I think you will enjoy them as well. The very first one, the title is what caught my eye, and it's called If I Had an Old House on the East Coast. Now, how fitting is that? For those of you that are new here, let me just quickly explain. I am originally from Michigan, and roughly 18 years ago was my very first time visiting New England. I came out here with my oldest daughter, and when we got home, I had told my husband I absolutely loved it there. Someday I want to live there. I really and truly want to live there. And that dream came true for me. We have lived here now for 7 years. Not only did I want to live in New England, but I had a dream of owning an old home. And that dream came true also. And I think you can understand why this title truly caught my eye. Now I would like to share just a few pages with you. It is a smaller book. It's not real thick, and I'm not going to spoil the whole thing for you. But I did have a couple that I wanted to share. And let me begin with the very first page. Old houses, I thought, do not belong to people ever. Not really. People belong to them. Gladys Tabor. So that is the very first thing I read. I knew I was going to love the book. So the book talks about really owning a home on the East Coast. Now, the author and the illustrator are both from Nova Scotia. I'm sure that's what they are referring to as the East Coast. However, I don't think that matters. For me, it's very fitting because I live in New England. However, I think it's just very fitting for anyone that loves older homes. I don't even want to say just older homes. For people that just love their home. So let me share a couple of excerpts with you, and I think you will see why I found it very fitting for me. At the entrance. At the entrance would be a stairway of long, thick pieces of slate, carefully positioned and mortared into stairs. That is exactly what we have here. We have granite. We are the granite state. And on the wooden door, a large heavy knocker, hand-hammered like something you might see on an old castle. Here is another thing very fitting for me. And if I had an old house on the East Coast, there would be souvenirs of visits to the beach, of shells and favorite stones at the entrance. I'd keep a bottle for collected sea glass just inside the door, where I would drop newly found pieces from my pocket when I came home. I have shared with you how I use sea glass throughout, and I have, like they have shown here, I do have some old blue canning jars filled with sea glass that right now I'm keeping outside on my porch. I also have, I believe they're called mermaid's fingernails, a bunch of those that I have along my windowsill upstairs. So I too love to collect shells. Any form of shells. Sea glass is a special treat, and I just use them in my home decor. Here's another example. If these walls could talk of drafts and wind and of makeshift insulation, birch bark behind the boards of a wall, horsehair and straw in the plaster, thick walls and small windows meant to keep the cold out and the warmth in. That is exactly what we have in our home here. We have horsehair ceilings. We have horsehair plaster on our walls. I have shared with you our windows. And In a few of the rooms here in the home, we actually have Indian shutters. And in the winter, I will tell you, we do close those. It does help with the warmth. Let's see here. I do love this page. If these walls could talk, they would have hundreds of stories to tell. Of the people who lived here, their struggles, their happiness, their dreams, their secrets, and their tragedies. Isn't that the truth? I have spoke before how I feel we are merely the caretaker of this home for the time that we live here. But the stories, if these walls could talk. I have spent many times just wondering about who lived here before me. You know, I have done a little bit of research on the home. Some local people have shared what they have heard. Some have heard at one point it was a tavern. I truly don't know if that is true or not, but if it was, the stories this house could tell of that. So I do wish the house could talk and share with me, because I would love to hear. The kitchen would be the heart of the place, as it always was, with a deep porcelain sink, a mosaic design of broken pottery pieces or sea glass for a backsplash, and an open seating area for many to gather around. Cast iron pans, a copper stove hood, an old butcher's block. The kitchen would be a place of cooking and eating together, and for squeezing in tight for parties, of course. You may or may not know, I use a lot of cast iron pans for my cooking. I do have a copper top hood. I also have a butcher block counter as my island. So here's another one I wanted to share. If I had an old house, it would seem as though waiting for a chicken coop and the meandering of cooing birds. And if it were a home for chickens, I would want it to be a collection of heritage breeds that have resistance to disease and are fantastically strange looking. They would lay eggs of varying sizes and colors and ramble free range through their days. As you know, we just got chicks. They're all doing wonderful, and as I speak right now, they're in my backyard free ranging. I'll try to get a video to show you. And the last few pages read, if I had an old house on the East Coast, it would be a cozy nest in the winter, a place to cuddle in by the fire and away from the world. We would have to winterize the gardens first, place firewood in neat piles in the woodshed, bring in the tools and wrap tender trees, and put on the storm windows. But then it would be time to go in, cozy up, and rest for a while, and dream some new dreams while the snow flies. The one thing I didn't go over is they also share different craft projects in this little book. What I love about the book is not only the cozy quaintness of the writing, but also the illustrations. It's just adorable. And so I was so excited about the book. I went out and purchased several copies to put into my store so I could share with you, because I have not seen this before, possibly because the author and illustrator are from Nova Scotia. I don't know, but I was so excited to share this with you. The other one that I have too in my shop, it's called Great Colonial American Projects. Now it's funny because it says it's for ages 9 and up. However, the crafts in here are things I would do, to be quite honest. It begins with some stories on the colonies and the colonial times, but as far as things that you can do, make your own dipped candles, make your own braided rug, make your own apple cider, make your own fan, finger knitting. There's just all kinds of things. Make your own tin lantern. You get the idea. There's all kinds of things. There are some more simple projects, but there's plenty of things in here that I would love to try myself. So I found both of these very fitting, especially after last week's video in celebrating our country's 250th anniversary, I found this book in particular very fitting with that. It got me to reminiscing a little. I have shared with you before how I feel since as a young child, I have always loved home decor. It started with Barbies. My favorite part of playing with Barbies was setting up the house. I preferred doing that over styling their hair and changing their outfits and all of that. And then when it came to having my very first place myself, my own apartment, I was so excited to be able to decorate it the way I wanted to. And I remember I would go to yard sales and do a little bit of thrifting and just decorate it and make it cozy for me. And then when Mark and I got married, again, it was a different home, and decorating that. And then through our married life, this is actually our fourth home. And each one I have decorated different, yet similar. And when I say that, it's because all of my homes I would have maybe a certain style that I would go for, yet I preferred the hunt of my decor items, whether it was yard sales or consignment stores, that type of thing. Mark and I would also make a lot of things. I would make all of the drapes or the curtains. He made some of our furniture. It was just, we did what we did, but it made our home unique. And then I thought about the different home decor styles, different, I don't want to say fads that I went through, because to be quite honest, they've all stayed fairly consistent. Now, when we first got married, the big trend was the country / Victorian look. And I did implement some of that into my home decor, and things changed as we went along. I started out with, I would say, more country than Victorian. Then I went to farmhouse. Then I went to farmhouse splashing in coastal. I have also added different primitive or colonial items in my homes through the years, prior to living here even. And then I have done some English country. Those are basically the themes that I've always kind of stuck with. I never got into a real rustic look. I've never gotten into a real modern or contemporary. But I bring all of this up because one of the questions I have for you is, I would love it if we could share below, what is the style of your home? What maybe you have changed through the years a little, yet stayed the same the way I am. I would love to hear what you enjoy. There's also people that have just a bare minimum, and that is what they're comfortable with. They don't like a lot of clutter. They don't like a lot of stuff. Now, I am probably in between. I do need I prefer more over less. For me personally, that's what makes me feel I am creating a cozy and comfortable home. And that is the number one thing for me. I want people that come into my home to feel comfortable and cozy. I don't want it to be, oh my goodness, I shouldn't touch something because I'm going to break it. Everything's replaceable, but that's what I'm trying to create, and for me and my personality, that's how I do it. But I would love to hear, what do you prefer? Do you prefer more clean lines? Do you prefer to have a lot of stuff? Share below, and maybe we can get a little bit of a conversation going with that. So that is what this book has started, all of that. That's how my mind goes. Boom, 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 all over the place. And it just got me to thinking, it is the beginning of August now. I do think a lot of us are starting to think fall, which tends to be changing out a little bit of our decor, maybe making it a little more cozy, adding more candles, blankets, warmer toned decor. And I am kind of getting anxious to do that. I haven't changed anything yet, but I'm thinking about it. So I also thought I would share with you, since it is summer, we really haven't been out kayaking much yet this year. We've been really busy with yard work and different projects here around the house, but we did go recently to a new to us lake, and it was just so serene and beautiful. I thought I would share a little bit of that with you to end the video. I will say that I was so excited. We first unloaded our kayaks and I just started going around the bend, and here were 5 loons. I was so excited. I didn't have my camera out yet. I had it tucked away, so I didn't get them because they are rather quick. I did get a picture of another loon later, but a family that lives on the lake told us that that is mom and dad, and they had 3 babies this spring. So I thought I would just share a few scenes from our little kayak trip, and it does include a bald eagle. So thank you so much for joining me today, friends. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time. So let's end with a peaceful kayaking on the lake.